What is up? This is your LA in a minute, and today I want to talk about Lawndale, an underrated community in the South Bay, and a place that's home to some of the most enterprising and hardworking people in Los Angeles. And true to its name, Lawndale is a haven of manicured green grass, the home to many lawns. Let's get into it. Like all areas in Los Angeles, Lawndale was originally the home to indigenous people for thousands of years. But in 1822, Antonio Ignacio Avila was granted land in three separate parcels in an area called Rancho Sauce Redondo. 10 years after Avila's death, Sauce Redondo was sold by his heirs at auction to a Scottish nobleman named Robert Burnett in 1868, who actually was the only bidder for the land. Burnett had previously acquired Rancho de Aguaje de Centinela, a sheep ranch, and with the new acquisition, he combined the total area into the Centinela Ranch, thus reuniting the major area of the original land grant. Burnett returned to Scotland in 1876, but not before leasing the land to Catherine and Daniel Freeman. The Freemans soon phased out the sheep and started focusing on dry farming, including that of barley, of which they were one of the biggest farmers in the United States, producing more than 3 million bushels per year on the land. 1902 was a big year because the Los Angeles and Redondo railways passed through what is now Lawndale along what is now Hawthorne Boulevard, and that was a major catalyst for growth and development. In March of 1905, the first development, or attempts at development, took place. Elizabeth L. Hopper and her son Charles, who owned strawberry fields and barley ranches in nearby Torrance, tried to subdivide and sell the land for $1,000 per plot. It's worth noting that they borrowed the name Lawndale from a Chicago subdivision founded in the early 1800s, and that was the inspiration for the name. A year later, Charles Hopper had the idea to subdivide the land into smaller lots to sell for $75 apiece, $1 down and $1 a week, and those sold like hotcakes. By the time the 1910 U.S. Census took place, there were 142 residents living in Lawndale. But it was Lawndale's agriculture that would spearhead more growth, powered by poultry raising in a subdivision called Lawndale Acres. Poultry turned into big business and was a main industry for the area until 1928 when another industry moved in, oil. Discovered in 1928, the oil boom lasted 3 years in Lawndale before things got back relatively to normal. Once the oil boom died down as a counterbalance to the oil exploration, Alondra Park was built in 1932 with a lake, wetlands, and fishing. Lawndale's major population influx occurred in the decade following the conclusion of World War II. Lawndale slowly lost its rural atmosphere as post-war veteran housing and the construction of the Harbor Freeway caused major growth. That growth almost turned deadly in 1958 when Lawndale was at the center of the floods caused by the rains. But it wasn't until December 28, 1959 that Lawndale was officially incorporated, first with its city hall at a storefront on Hawthorne Boulevard. And in 1963, Lawndale cemented its place in Los Angeles transportation history as it was the last link in 42 miles of continuous freeway on the 405. By 1970, Lawndale was thriving and they dedicated a new city hall. And notorious buildings and architecture started popping up, such as the Tiki Kai, one of the first tiki restaurants in all of Los Angeles. More important was the beautiful architecture of the Federal Aviation Administration's West Coast headquarters, also in Lawndale. A significant building, it was the first designed in Southern California to have a mirrored skin. And of course today, the Alondra Park still thrives as a wooded rural landscape and prairie setting amidst a beautiful urban lake. And about those lawns, Lawndale does have some of the most lawn area per capita in Los Angeles, owing to its many single-family homes. So Lawndale is the heart of the South Bay and one of the most underrated communities in all of Los Angeles. And yes, it does have a lot of lawns. All right, LA, it's been a minute.